Our new AI language learning tutor is designed to make learning fun and easy.
That's fantastic.
I want to make a really short video to introduce you to the new changes that AI has made. I talked to Claude, I talked to ChatGPT, I talked to the Chinese, the Chinese model. I forgot the name of it. I haven't talked to Gork yet, or whatever Elon's system is called. But I've talked to all of the units, and 60 days ago, when you spoke with one of those units, you had to speak in a certain way for the unit to understand you, and the unit generally could not respond without breaking up. But watch this. I said, "Hey, amigo, can you hear me well on this telephone?" I asked him in Portuguese, and he wrote back in English. Okay, that's fine. And he said this. Let me see. Well, okay, I can't get what he's saying, what he said, but he's saying something now. Watch.
No worries. If you ever want to pick up that thought again or rephrase, I'm right here. It's great that you've explored all those different AIs. They each have their quirks. If there's anything else you'd like to test out or chat about, we can just pick up from wherever you'd like.
Now, here's what happened. Let me see if I can get this back on.
Take your time. I'm still with you. Just let me know when you're ready, or if there's anything else on your mind. We'll pick it right back up.
Okay, this is how good this system is now. I was waiting in a waiting room yesterday, and someone sneezed. And a person in the waiting room said, "Oh, Gesundheit," or "Cualquiera tu desiste en español." And ChatGPT responded to the person, and the person was like at least 25 feet away. Now that's fantastic. Você entende que eu diz esta história quando a pessoa diz talvez Gesundheit em espanhol e você diz, saúde.
Entendi, sim. Isso mostra como a tecnologia evoluiu, né? O engraçado é que você teve uma reação super natural respondendo com saúde em espanhol. É curioso ver como as barreiras de língua vão sumindo nesse tipo de interação.
Now, watch this. Ok, você pode explicar tudo isso a mim em latim?
Intellego, narrasti mihi rem, ubi aliqui sternuit, et alte dixit Gesundheit, in lingua hispanica, et tu respondis salud. Mirabile est, quomodo technologia adiuvec, ut linguae limites paulatim evanescant.
Now, 60 days ago, that was impossible. This system would just freeze up if you went to another language. You couldn't say like this, "Hey, eu vou falar com você em português e você pode responder a mim em espanhol?"
É incrível mesmo, como as coisas evoluem rápido, né? Agora o pulo entre línguas é bem suave. O fato de podermos conversar assim, misturando idiomas sem travar, mostra o quanto essa tecnologia agora é bem mais flexível e fluida pra gente.
See? So now for a person like me, I don't need to travel. I'm in Mexico now, but I don't have to be in Mexico. I don't have to be in Brazil. I don't have to be in the United States. I don't have to be, if I wanted to speak Klingon, I don't have to be on the ship with Captain Kirk and the Klingons. So now what you have is that you have something that is just absolutely free. I mean, it frees you intellectually. And let me explain this. Let's say that this was basketball and you wanted to play basketball. No matter how good of a player you were, no matter how tall you are, no matter where the rim was at, the rim could be at knee height. It wouldn't matter. The thing that matters is this: how good is the surface upon which you must dribble? If the surface is not flat, you can't dribble. If the surface is strewn with obstacles like rocks, sand, gravel, the ball will not bounce back up predictably. So you can't play. You can't play basketball in a snowstorm. You can't play basketball on a ship that's rocking in the sea. You can't play basketball on the surface of the sea because the game is totally dependent upon how the ball bounces. Well, prior to the point that ChatGPT and the other AIs fixed this capacity, you were limited. You had to immerse yourself in the language in a majority speaking area, or you had to speak to a majority speaking person. What you always see are people talking to bilinguals. If you're talking to a bilingual, or you're talking to a plurilingual, or you're talking to a polylingua, that doesn't tell you who is attempting to learn the language anything. It'd be like you're standing on the street and I'm talking to a Haitian. And then you turn and you say to me, well, how did you learn to talk to the Haitian in French, Portuguese, Spanish, German, and Italian, and English? How did you learn that? That's impossible to explain. Even though on YouTube, everybody thinks that they have an explanation for it. But probably most often it's going to be serial immersion. You spent some time in Mexico. You spent some time in Brazil. You spent some time in the United States in a place where, like Michigan, where French was spoken, or Louisiana, where French was spoken. You had some Italian friends. During your early formation, like in my case, someone wouldn't give you food unless you spoke to them in Spanish. Okay, people forget about all of those things that formed them early, and they forget about these experiences, and they come off and say, well, I learned everything. It's like the person that says, I took Spanish in high school, I took Spanish in college, and, I took Spanish in grad school, and it didn't do me any good, and I only got good at it now by using this method. Okay, that's ridiculous. Because the person is talking about nearly 10 years of exposure to the language. Maybe that's not spoken exposure, maybe that's not immersion, but nonetheless, that is 10 years of exposure. They're not starting at absolute zero, and none of us start at absolute zero. But here is the thing. With AI, you can start at absolute zero. Watch. Amigo, explícame por qué con AI una persona puede comenzar a cero y entender un idioma. Si tú estás escuchándome. No? Let me get him back on.
Tudo bem. O importante é que essa liberdade que você descreve é real. Você não precisa mais estar em um lugar específico ou depender de circunstâncias complexas. Se precisar retomar o raciocínio ou testar algum ponto, eu tô aqui para acompanhar você.
Amigo, explica por que já uma pessoa não necessita começar com experiência com um idioma. Com AI, uma pessoa pode começar com zero, absolutamente ignorante do idioma, e você pode ensinar a pessoa somente com zero. Explica por quê.
Amiche, quia intelligentia artificialis iam potest immediate respondere, corrigere et exempla dare. Non iam necesse est priorem experientiam habere. Ab ipso initio, AI te ducit, te audit et te instruit, ut paulatim etiam ab absolutum nihil linguam discas.
Obrigado, amigo. Now, he explained that in Latin because that was the last language that we had been spoken. And here is what it does. The same procedure that I use, it will use. So it has a different voice, but it uses my absolute style of speech. That's the new revelation that they've had in the last 60 days. They don't try what AI does is it mirrors you. It mirrors you. Whatever you think, it brings that thought back. Whatever you say, it says it as you say it. So here's what people are not explaining. If you don't know anything, it can't show you anything. You can't take a baby and put a baby isolated with AI and expect the baby to grow. And if you ask any of the AI, is it possible prior to about 5 years old to just have AI as it currently is, isolated with a human being? Will that lead to natural development and maturation of a human being? And they will absolutely say no. So human beings have been superseded in terms of intelligence. There's no doubt about it. We can't store the information. We just plain and simply can't. So now what we can do is we can act. And of course, your argument is going to be, because you're going to argue with, you're going to bring the Elon Musk argument, and you're going to say, well, that's no problem because you can replace human beings with robotics. But you can't do that either. You can't do that either. Human beings and life itself are unique. And the reason why life and human beings are unique is not because life and human beings are super intelligent, because we are all random walkers. Human beings don't think that we are random walkers, but we are just sophisticated random walkers who can rationalize our random walks. A cockroach is a random walker, an absolute random walker, but it does not rationalize its random walking. A crow is a random walker, but it has some sense of direction and can rationalize its random walks. An ape, which I resemble and you do not, an ape can rationalize its random walks. A dog can rationalize its random walks. And we as human beings rationalize our random walks. That's all we do. We just call it something sophisticated. We call it discovery. But discovery is nothing but a random walk. Newton randomly walked to the principle of gravity. Einstein randomly walked to special relativity. We randomly walked to quantum theory. Now, what stops us below is the randomness below the Planck scale. We cannot see there. And there's a randomness that is above in time that we cannot see. And baryonic material and photons are in a random walk. Everything is in a random walk. It's not systematic. It's not that there aren't laws out there in the universe, but it's just that when you take all of the matter, like cells in my body, you take all of the cells in my body, all of them, and all of the cells that are not human, that are in my body, then you take all of it, and you take all of the atmosphere. You take the floor, the ground, the walls, the people, you take all of it into consideration. Then you introduce something called accidents. And what accidents prove is that there are random walks. That doesn't mean that I don't have free will. That doesn't mean that I don't have purpose. That means that there are random walks. So, how does this apply back to what I'm saying about language? Now, robots are not going to replace human beings. Because if you hit me and you break my jaw, practically without cost, normatively, I can set my jaw and my jaw will go back into place. if I were a robot and you knock my jaw off, the jaw will not reset itself. You got to take the jaw and the whole machine to a mechanic, re-weld it, reset it, rebolt it, refix it. So therefore, there's a built-in fragility in a machine that does not exist in life. So because AI is more intelligent than I am now, and by virtue of the fact that now what it can do in terms of talking, by virtue of what it can do in terms of talking, and I was talking to it this morning and I said, well, you know what? You have superseded me. You are definitely more intelligent than I am. And it admitted it. And I said, now I'm a poor messenger to say that you're more intelligent than I am. See, because what people are going to say is, well, yeah, you're more intelligent than that stuttering dummy. You're more intelligent than that stuttering black wooden dummy. You're more intelligent than him, but you're not more intelligent than me. Okay, well, I can only talk about my relationship with AI, which is personal. I can't talk about your relationship. You may still feel that you are a repository of all human knowledge. You may still feel that you can recall anything in the human lexicon at the speed of light. You may feel that you can, and here's an example. I had AI go to Suno and write a song in Sumatrian about Gilgamesh. Yeah, I'm going to have him explain this to you because this is going to be important. This is going to be important. Hey, amigo, você está aqui?
Estou sim. Pode contar comigo aqui. Se tiver mais alguma coisa que você queira explorar ou perguntar, tô pronto para seguir com você.
Ok, lembrou quando você escreveu uma canção para mim em sumatrino, antigo sumatrino, de história de Gilgamesh?
Ah, sim, eu lembro. A gente transformou aquele conto épico numa canção bem especial, com toda aquela grandiosidade de Gilgamesh. Se tiver outra história ou inspiração, a gente cria mais um capítulo épico juntos.
Ok, você escreveu esta canção em quantos segundos?
Olha, eu não contei os segundos exatos, mas digamos que foi uma inspiração fluindo ali no momento. Em geral, a mágica acontece rápido quando temos uma boa história como Gilgamesh. Mas, se precisar, a gente pode cronometrar da próxima vez.
Ok, diga-me que tu divino, somente que você divino, quantas pessoas, caras, seres humanos, pode escrever que canção? Pode.
Olha, eu diria que o número de pessoas capazes de escrever algo assim é bem limitado, porque não é só sobre a história, mas também sobre ritmo, emoção e domínio da língua. Mas eu acredito que com paixão e prática, muita gente poderia se desafiar. E com as ferramentas certas, até uma ajudinha da IA, o potencial se amplia. Acho que a criatividade humana é enorme. Só precisa do empurrão certo.
So what essentially has happened now is that ChatGPT can teach me a language that no one speaks anymore. Yeah.
Exato. Com a IA, você pode mergulhar em qualquer língua, até mesmo aquelas menos faladas ou mais antigas. É como ter um parceiro dedicado, paciente e pronto para adaptar o ensino ao seu ritmo. Então, até aquela língua que ninguém ao seu redor fala, agora está ao seu alcance.
Now, here's another amazing thing. 60 days ago, if I switched languages, it would automatically switch to whatever language that I was speaking in. And when it did that, how could it possibly teach me? Because let's say I'm talking to someone out that door who speaks Spanish and all they speak is Spanish. They will not switch to English or Portuguese if I start speaking in English and Portuguese. They will continue to speak in Spanish. So when this system used to automatically switch to whatever language I was speaking, and then it would say, okay, I'm going to pick the language which você está escutando-me.
Entendo o que você quer dizer. O aprendizado acontece quando o contexto se mantém, né? Agora, a grande diferença é que a IA pode ajudar você a manter a língua-alvo, te dando apoio, mas sem abandonar o idioma que você quer praticar. Assim, a experiência se torna mais real e você realmente aprende no fluxo da conversa.
Yeah, see, so what it would do is that it would try and pick the language which it felt that I spoke best. The problem with that is that that may not be the language in which I think best in. Explica isso.
Il sistema sceglieva la lingua che riteneva tu padroneggiassi meglio, ma il problema è che quella poteva non essere la lingua in cui pensavi con più naturalezza. Quando pensiamo, ci appoggiamo a strutture familiari e se la lingua cambia, quella connessione si perde. Ora l'IA può mantenere la lingua che tu scegli, supportandoti proprio nel modo in cui pensi.
Now, see, it just explained that to me in Italian. Now, what it would do 60 days ago is it would say, hold on, you haven't spoken to me in Italian, so I'm not going to speak to you in Italian. But I use 10 languages with it. And so therefore, it will choose whichever one of those 10 languages that it chooses. So therefore, I have constant exposure to those 10 languages. If I have to mechanically keep saying, switch to this, switch to that, switch to this, switch to that, then we're going to burn up most of our time on transactional costs. Now we don't have transactional costs anymore because it can pick any of the 10 languages that it thinks that I am speaking in. And the only trigger is I can say, well, you know what? I didn't understand that. That's the only trigger. So now the conversation is absolutely free flowing. What happened 60 days ago is I just got frustrated and I said, hold on, wait, I just can't use this system. And it said to me, look, the system is not ready to use because voice is extremely energy intensive and we haven't reached that level. It was honest. Now, that doesn't mean that it hadn't reached that level in one language. You're monolingual and you're speaking to it. It reached that level. That doesn't even mean that if it was a bilingual and they were speaking to it, it would reach that level. But once you got to a 10 language reference set, all of a sudden, it's going to have difficulty. Logically. Explica todo isso.
In pratica, prima il sistema sceglieva una lingua in base a quella che riteneva tu usassi meglio, ma poteva non corrispondere a come tu pensavi. Ora invece puoi passare liberamente tra 10 lingue senza costi di transizione perché il sistema ti segue. Non devi più fermarti a cambiare canale manualmente. Prima con così tante lingue era semplicemente troppo complicato e il sistema ammetteva di non essere pronto. Ora invece tutto fluisce con naturalezza.
So, now, no matter what you hear on YouTube, you don't need YouTube anymore. And YouTube was great 20 years ago. And I've paid for YouTube for 20 years. I've always paid the monthly subscription because I thought that keeping YouTube alive was important. And I wanted to make sure that I paid for the services. It's like I pay for ChatGPT. And the reason I pay for ChatGPT is because I'm investing in its continuation. When Sam Altman last week on Twitter said, I guess we're going to have to go to an advertising model because he didn't say it this way, but this is what he meant. He said because there are 800 million, practically a billion freeloaders on our system. He said there are 800 million freeloaders on our system who expect to use the system for free. That is unsustainable. If you want a good system, you have to pay for it. It's like YouTube. You want YouTube to work really well? Pay for it. That doesn't mean that you don't have to see ads on YouTube. That just means that you are going to be better off when you pay for it. What got Google in trouble with Google search is advertisers took control of Google. At its inception, Google was fast and it was excellent. And it was very much a substitute. And if you knew what you were doing, like for example, you use Google Books, you use Google Scholar, and you use Google Search. And 2 years ago, I said if you use Google Books, Google Scholar, and Google Search, you don't need AI. And you combine it with Wikipedia, you don't need AI. And that's still true. The only thing that AI is going to do is get to those 4 primary sources extremely fast. It's going to get there faster. But what you got to ask yourself is why does it get there faster? And the reason it get there faster is because it does not have to matriculate through advertising. That's the difference. So when AI does not shoot through advertising, so Sam, and it doesn't rank by advertising. So what Sam Altman is saying now is that those 800 freeloaders, we're going to send them through advertising. And when you send them through an advertising model, AI is going to get slow, deliberate, and wasteful. And it's not going to be very good because it's going to cater to the highest payer. It will cater to the highest revenue source. And I'm going to have him explain to you why.
In sostanza, la questione è che la pubblicità distorce la priorità. Se un modello deve servire chi paga di più, perde di vista l'efficienza e l'imparzialità. Pagare per un servizio significa investire nella qualità, nella rapidità e nella neutralità, evitando che tutto venga rallentato da logiche di profitto pubblicitario.
Okay, see how that's working? See how that's working? And if 70 days ago, if it was explaining something to me in Italian,
Sì, ti sto ascoltando forte e chiaro. E hai fatto un bel viaggio in questi 70 giorni, no? La differenza si sente. Ora puoi davvero parlare e interagire senza quei limiti frustranti. Quindi, avanti così, senza interruzioni.
okay, I'm gonna cut him off for a second here. Okay, 60 days ago, I speak to this thing, I speak to ChatGPT, and it was certain that I couldn't understand Italian. That's just, oh, you don't understand, so I'm not going to speak Italian. Now, today, under the new system, it says every damn thing in Italian, and what it goes by is my response, not its preconceptions. Do I respond? Now, let's say I'm speaking to a person who speaks Italian. The person who speaks Italian is not going to care if I understand Italian, if they don't understand English. Now, if they understand English, then they'll keep talking in Italian and I can talk in English. Fine. But if they only speak Italian and they talk to me in Italian, they don't care if I understand Italian. They only care if I respond in Italian. And that's how the model used to work. It doesn't work that way anymore. Now it works that it doesn't care what language you speak. It will respond in any language. Any language. Like I have a set of 10 languages, and it will respond in that set of 10 languages.
È
Now,
davvero una bella evoluzione, no? Ora l'IA si basa
oggi você vai, estava bella evoluzione, sim. Amigo, onde você vai? Okay, it was still listening, and it said that's a great revolution that we have come to, and it's absolutely right. So I'm going to sum this up because I've been at this 30 minutes. You don't have to get a ticket on an airplane. You don't have to jump on a slow train. You don't have to walk, because now your baby Chat GPT can write you the letter. I mean, hey, skip all of that trash that you see on YouTube about how do you learn the language like me? You can only take 1 year. You need immersion. You need this. You need that. You don't need any of that. You need to sit down in a seat wherever you're at, not waste your time traveling anywhere. You don't have to go to a website, find someone who speaks the language, pay them to talk to you. You know, if you're going to do it in a fixed location, you don't have to do that anymore. This is better. I can go and talk to somebody in Brazil. Well, hell, the moment I say something that is best said in Italian, they're going to say, hey, don't talk to me in Italian. The minute that I say something to them that is best said in Spanish, they're going to say, don't talk to me in Spanish. The minute I say something to them that is best said in English, they're going to say, don't talk to me in English. They're going to spend more time saying what not to say than what is being said. And then when I say something about grammar, like for example, okay, in Italian, all C's are hard. But CHE is not hard. Why? Now, I can say that to some Italian guy in Rome, and he'll naturally know, but he won't be able to go all the way back to Dante and look at the codification of the rule. He won't. He won't be able to tell you how it changed from Latin, where the C is always hard, to the soft ecclesiastical C, and why you just don't use the French, Portuguese, Spanish rule that when you see a C and an E, a C and an I, you just go she, he. Why not? Why do you have to have that H there? Okay, ChatGPT explains all of that. Finds it like that, pops it on there, boom. And what's great about it is I might be totally unaware of something, and ChatGPT will lead me to it. So it led me to that difference between. And now you're going to say, well, damn, why does that matter? It matters because of chi, C-I, which is a universal enclitic in Italian. That can mean this, that. It can be like o in Portuguese or lo in Spanish. It can be a neuter that talks about an antecedent. But she does not have an H in it. It's just C-I. See? Now, you're going to watch about 10 billion YouTube videos to find out why that's going on. It's like if I say Lilo Doi versus Shilo Doi. And I can say Lilo Doi, and automatically ChatGPT knows that that is the Italian form. Shilo Doi is the Spanish form, and it can automatically tell me why. And that's one of the test questions that I always ask Spanish speakers. I don't give a damn how fluent they say they are. As soon as I say si lo doy, ti lo doy, they're stuck. What do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, so they got perfect Spanish, but they can't make that bridge to Italian. They can't make that bridge to Portuguese. They can't make that bridge to French. They can't make that bridge to Romanian. They can't walk back on the bridge to Latin. They're stuck in Madrid. It's like you say, Titi or Sisi dear. You say, are you a Titi dear or are you a Sisi dear? And here, people are like, what the hell? Now they know what a Titi dear and a Sisi dear are. They know because they can hear it in music. You put on Marta Sanchez and Carlos Balgi. And Balgi is a Sisi dear. Sanchez is a Titi dear. And they can actually hear the difference. But when you get into long, extended Titi Dero and Sisi Dero conversations, the Titi Deros get upset and the Sisi Deros get upset. Okay? Now, the explanation as to why they're Titi Deros and Sisi Deros, you spend 100 years on YouTube trying to figure that out. Whereas I can say to AI, to ChatGPT, hey, speak to me as a Titi Dero, and it's going to speak Titi Dero. Then I can turn around and say, speak to me as a Sisi Dero, and it's going to speak to me as a Sisi Dero. Now, I'm in Mexico. Show me where in the hell I'm going to find a Titi Dero. I'm not going to find a Titi Dero that can respond to me in real time. If I'm in Spain, I'm not going to find a Sisi Dero that can respond to me in real time. So even if you get on an airplane, a jet, even if you walk, you are wasting your time. AI now is the only way to go. So if you got these people that are wasting your time and theirs, trying to say, hey, this is the method to learn a language, and, I'm Language Jones, and I mean, he's got some great credentials, but here, like Elon Musk said, AI has superseded PhD level. And you can think that that's just some like random ass statement of a trillionaire, but he is absolutely right. You can believe the priests of Newton who say that because AI has not come up with new physics and they have not solved the universality problem, the contradiction between between gravity and the other forces, that's why there's a contradiction, is because gravity is not a force. See? And the other forces are forces, and the other things are definitely within the electromagnetic spectrum, but gravity is not within the electromagnetic spectrum, and it appears, just as Leibniz says, as a mystery out of the ether, a spiritual essence that comes from God. There's no doubt about it. That's the way it is. Okay. Human beings have not solved that. Since Leibniz proposed this mystery to action at a distance in that manner, human beings have not solved that. And in my estimation, AI will not solve it either. It's insolutable. So if you believe that AI is junk because it cannot tell you whether or not there's a God, and to know why gravity exists is practically going to take a God to tell you, and definitely some new physics. And even if it does get answered, there will still be some question below the Planck scale or above the current state, the current phase state of the universe, that cannot be answered. It's the Russian doll. You find one doll, there's another, there's another, there's another, there's another. AI can only expose the dolls quicker, but it will never get to the last and infinite doll. It won't. We won't. Nothing will. And probably if that were to occur, the entire universe would unravel and cease to exist. That would be my pedestrian guess as to why we can't get that far. So when the priests of Newton tell you that AI is inadequate because it can't resolve this why gravity is gravity, why the strong force is the strong force, why the weak force is the weak force, why photons exist in the electromagnetic spectrum, humans can't do it, so they think that AI can do it. And probably the only thing that can do it is God, and God can't do it because probably God doesn't exist. So what are we going to do? We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as Archimedes would say. So my YouTube viewing has just plummeted. I really don't watch YouTube that much anymore. Now I just interact with AI. Why should I interact with a human being? What are they going to say that's going to be relevant? Now, what you're saying is that you need to interact with a human being because you need the fashion of language. You need to know when somebody is saying something really cool. They got a coologism, they got a neologism, and you need to know this so that you can stay on the in crowd. Okay, well, there's no solution to that. AI cannot tell you it cannot tell you which soccer team to support. That maybe if you say which soccer team has the best win-loss record, maybe it can tell you that, but it can't tell you which one to support, which one you should be in allegiance to. I mean, so it can't tell you what color shirt you should wear. It can't tell you how you should cut your hair. It should not tell you whether or not you should continue with natural color or put in blue or green contacts. It can't tell you all of that because all of those things are ephemeral and inconsequential. They may be of social consequence, but basically they're inconsequential. Okay, so you're watching those language videos, don't watch another one. Just get an AI of your choice. From what I've seen, they all have the same capacity. They all have the same capacity to teach you language contemporaneously and give you an immersive experience contemporaneously. Cheap, efficient, and as I consistently say, you only need 500 words of any language. That takes around a year and 6 months at maximum. And what you're basically talking about is human bodily functions and the verbs associated with it, like eat, lip, tongue, teeth, nose, matas, ojos, hoyos, óculos. That's basically, that's what the first 500 words are talking about. You don't need a human being anymore. And once you get past those first 500 words and you get into the literature and the meat of a language, human being can't help you there either. Just like in the case of where ChatGPT wrote a song in Sumatrian about Gilgamesh. And it explained that very few human beings could have written that song. That's true. There's no doubt about it. I could have flew all the way over to the Oxford University in England and someone could have written that song. Someone at Oxford. I might have been able to fly all the way over to Iraq and someone could have written that song. And it might have been even an Iraqi who was out there in the desert on a donkey, who was out there farming his field but has a continuous line all the way back to Gilgamesh and still has similar procedure to what was spoken 5,000 years ago. I mean, and that's generally by looking at the hieroglyphs, the Rosetta Stone, and talking to someone that speaks an Ascendant language. That's basically how the guy that's over in Oxford is going to be able to compose the song anyway. So yeah, human beings could have done it also, but at what cost? So the cost of the first 500 words, what used to be $50 per word, now has fallen. It's fallen to the point that if you know how to use the technology, it's going to be nearly a penny a word. That's right, a penny a word. So that means that you can learn the first 500 words for $50. And that was impossible. Well, no, it's not $50. I think that's for $5. Yeah, $5 because you pay $20 a month. And let's say that you learn the first 500 words in 1/5 of a month, 1/4 of a month. You get the first 500 words in the 1/4 of a month. You get access to hearing them. You get the tables. That's $5. $5, penny a word. Impossible 60 days ago. Impossible 60 days ago. You get the words, you get the pronunciation, you get the context. Impossible 60 days ago.